Alrighty, let's try a longer time format. This is still in the rapid classification, but it is 15 minutes with a 10-second increment. That slight change will give us a much different game than what we've played in the past, as far as time goes. So we shall see what it looks like. I'm going to go with a standard Roy Lopez type opening, and my opponent does not continue with that mindset. So let's take a little think here. I could make a standard move, which would support this standard move, or I could make a standard move. Either way, we're going to put the knight there. So let's go ahead and move that. My opponent pins my piece correctly. Let's see what we can finagle out. And then the question is, where does this bishop belong? I'm pretty sure bishop belongs here. I like the idea of this structure. It's more like the Italian game that I'm used to, that I've played in the past, so I feel pretty okay about it. I can prop it up with something like this, which notice also over-defends that pawn, and then I just have to take care of this situation. I can push this pawn if I need to, which it looks like I need to. I have to be careful not to put that knight here, because I don't want to trap. I don't want to remove this if I don't have to. Okay, that is an interesting move. Okay, I'm not ready for that one. All right, so that puts pressure down this diagonal. First, let's figure out what we're doing with this bishop. So we're capturing. Now this is a potential, but already let's look at the time format. So just by going from a 10-0 to a 15-5, look, we're way up on, or a 15-10, excuse me, we're way up on time. Like, look how much time we have now. Is this something I want to mess with, putting this bishop here now? Or why don't I just castle? What's wrong with me just castling right now? That's the smart move, right? Because we have one attacker, only one attacker here. We have one attacker here. This knight doesn't really have a lot of squares. So this knight could come here. I think castling is just a safe option right now. Let's go ahead and do that. We still have this bishop develop with tempo in reserve. Here's another. Man, these people are coming down here hard with these pawn moves down here. These early H pawn moves are so strong, not strong, but they're so confusing to me. The neural network chess engines say that this is a very strong move, but I don't quite understand it myself. I'm not 100% there. I think I want to get this knight doing something. If I bring it here and then I bring it, oops, excuse me. If I bring the knight to E2, and then can I maneuver it up to G3? That puts a double attack on this pawn. But note, then my opponent can just drive the pawn down, which makes me remaneuver the knight once again. Which, where do I remaneuver the knight to? Is that a strong outpost? Not really, because my opponent still has that in reserve, has that G-pawn move in reserve. So is the knight on F5 a good knight? Good knight. All right, what if we remaneuver this way? No, because we still can't get to that. We can't get to the c5 square. So let's take a look at remaneuvering knight to g3, all the way up to f5. Knight on f5. Knight on f5. If the knight is here, and this pawn is pushed, where would the knight go from here? The knight would circle all the way back around. Man, that is a lot of knight moves. I am not happy with it. So I've still got plenty of time. I'm still considering. I'm still thinking. This does cut off this diagonal. If my opponent were to push this pawn, I could park the bishop here, but then it's undefended. I mean, it's undefended any way we look at it. I could push a pawn to defend it. I might just do that. I'm not in love with this move at all. Notice making this exchange does nothing for me because it keeps his, yeah. So I had that one prepared. I knew that move was available to me. All right, so if this bishop goes here, do I prop it up with the pawn? Am I happy with that exchange? I don't know. I've now weakened the structure in front of my king even further. But more importantly, am I trapping that bishop? If he pushes this pawn here, and then I go here, and then he pushes pawn. Yeah, if my bishop is here and he pushes pawn, I have to be able to retreat to that square. In fact, that's probably what I want to do anyway, right? I want to get this bishop here. Actually, let's think about that. Yeah, let's see if bishop on c3. What does bishop on c3 look like? If the bishop is on c3, that protects against this horrible diagonal. Let's do that. Let's just get the bishop to c3. I'd like to do something with my queen. I don't want it just sitting here forever. I don't know where the queen is going to go. I am not making this exchange. I want this bishop. His knight on the edge is less useful. I would really like to get... All right, so I might have to look at remaneuvering this knight now, because this is now looking stronger and stronger. So knight, but notice I don't have this anymore. Man. Frustrating, frustrating, frustrating. Okay, let's think about this. What if we try to upset this structure? All right, what if we try to upset this structure? So let's push d4. E captures on d with tempo on my knight. I'd have to remaneuver the knight. Possibly bringing it back. All right, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and try to break through the center a little. My opponent's king is still in the center. He now is putting an attack on my queen. So we said we wanted to get rid of the queen somehow. Now the question is where. If he takes, we've already discussed this on a previous line that we are taking back. The queen. Do we run into any horrible discoveries or knight forks? Not yet. I think I'm okay. Keeping my queen on a light square because he's got a dark square bishop. Ooh, I just took away my retreat square for my knight, though. Blah, 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 blah. That makes me upset because that was my retreat square for my knight that I worked really hard to put into place. That was so dumb. Okay, so, well, we're just going to just going to continue that line, actually. And I might follow up with something like that, because the king is pinned. Drop this bishop from here all the way back to here. Not sure yet. I'd like to get rid of that guy, but it's all right. You can take there. This does give me... Okay, so now my queen is active. Let's activate the queen, shall we? Are we activating the queen? Let's make sure we're not trapping it. Let's make sure we don't trap it. Let's say we've got so much time. This is what these longer games allow us to do. We have so much time. Let's think about this. I need to be careful. I've got to get my back rank fixed. But my knight is stuck until I do something about this. So let's go ahead and start getting some heavy pressure. Because if I can get here and then take, then I can finally get my knight involved. So let's look at that. Now, if he pushes, I am probably going to... Why don't I just take? If he pushes, why don't I just take? So we're back even in material right now. We are even in material. If he pushes... Oh, if he pushes, I just take this way, and I'm happy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to see if I've got... I feel like I have something that I'd like to exploit somehow, but I don't know how yet. So that is protected. No, don't accidentally move something you don't want to. All right, let's see. Do I have some kind of... No, I don't have any discovery checks. So I can't take because it's defended. I can't take because it's defended, so we just have to retreat. And so retreating means... I'm just looking for any better opportunities for retreating, and I think the best one is here. I'm just making sure there's... So yeah, so my opponent could go here. So if I go here, so queen to D3, knight to E5. I can make this exchange, and I'm okay. Or I can just take up. That works as well. So this doubled pawn is now a target. This pawn is no longer a target. Notice it's defended, but that's okay. We're still even in material. Yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting, but we can do this. Now, what challenges do I have to face? I have that to face. So before we do that, let's go ahead and make this exchange. No, because then that defends that pawn. So if he comes here, I can continue the retreat. No, not that way. I can continue the retreat. Or if he were to come here, I can actually encourage a queen trade. Aha. What does that do? If I take here, all right, so let's make sure we don't have any funny discoveries. If I take here, so if bishop takes knight, pawn takes bishop, queen takes pawn, I have an X-ray that I have to be careful of. This is a dangerous move set, and I need to be really careful. So I'm taking a ton of time on this one to make sure I'm I've got it all planned out as best I can. I'm pinning this, which makes me happy, but I am pinned as well, and he simply moves, but that's not a really good discovery, because I can just drop my queen back. Actually, if he moves, I can just take his knight. So I am, make sure, yeah, I'm taking his pawn, so I'm up 2 pawns. Let's make sure I don't drop anything in the process. Let's see, if I take, he takes bishop, I take queen, queen, that's a trade that I'm on the losing end of. I really got to get this, what did he do? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. He just moves his king out of the pin. Okay, good for him, good for him. That's a good move. Is there anything I can do to exploit that? Not really. Encourage a trade or take. That's what I really like. Yeah. So if he trades, I'm okay with the trade because I'm up the exchange. Notice that move was threatening this pawn. But if he had pushed past, yeah, I could, no. Yeah, I could just take here and then encourage the, all right. So let's take a look at what we have now. Do we have any discoveries? Do I have any way to put a check on that king with a discovery? No, I don't. I cannot take here. I need to get this guy out of the way. And how do we want to do that? I need to stop playing with this damn queen is what I need to do. So we're up 2 pawns. We still have 7 whole minutes on the clock, so we have tons of time. I mean, if you think about it, this time-wise, my opponent still has more time than in the games that I play at a 10-minute pace. I really want to exploit this somehow, so I'm thinking I've got to get a rook over here. He's got 2 defenders. I need to get a 3rd attacker on it. Actually, the first thing I need to do is I need to get this rook over. Because a rook over with this X-ray, then this pawn move becomes a serious threat. All right. Let's just defend this pawn. I've done a lot of queen moves here, guys. Queen is now on f3. It feels like a solid square. It is defended. I'm not in love with it, but it'll work. I've got some pressure on this pawn. I now have 2 attackers on this pawn, and I'm going to be adding a 3rd here pretty soon. Actually, probably this rook coming over. The A rook to D1. So rook A D1 is how we'd call that. So that's most likely my next move, depending on what my opponent does. Oh, he has 2 attackers on this pawn. But he can't. Ah, this one's pinned. Aha, aha. Woof. I missed that bishop. But yeah, that bishop's pinned. That's why I put it out of my mind. He'll need to unpin his bishop. Okay, so bishop is pinned. He can't take the pawn. That rook is eyeing up that pawn. I would like to get a rook over here. And then if I push the pawn, he would have to push past, which is fine. Because then I can push this pawn. I have my own doubled pawns that I need to worry about. So he is looking to try to unpin. No, I said rook A, D1. All right, so we have plenty of time. Take it nice and slow. And then the question is, how do we want to proceed? So we have 3 attackers. Take here. Then, yeah, we take here with check. Rook takes. Rook takes with pressure on the queen. I'm actually feeling pretty good about that, because that's with check now. So that changes things considerably, doesn't it? At which point do we get the queens off the board? That might be something to look at. Now, do I have any tactics? So I'm looking for a good discovery so that I can put pressure on this queen. And I think the best one is here to take this. So that is a discovered attack on his queen. Yes, I'm risking a bishop. I'm risking an entire bishop on this move here. I should have looked even harder because that's also a discovered attack on his rook. That feels really strong. I was just thinking, my thought process was just eliminate this pawn, and then I've got a passed outside pawn, which is very strong. But in this case, I've actually got a double attack. So my opponent needs to spend some time here and really consider what his next moveset is. Now I need to consider what my next moveset is because I do not want to end up. But this comes with check. My opponent can take with his. No, he cannot take, and he resigns. All right, so that was a good game right up until the end. My opponent dropped a queen, unfortunately. But look how much time we still had. So slowing the game down has done a tremendous amount for our brain processing power. Let's take a quick analysis of this game. I felt really pretty good. There was a moment in the middle there where we hit that mid-game point, and you just kind of stall out. And you don't know what to do. Sorry, getting a sip of water. When we get back to that point, we'll talk about it. But, okay. All right, so. Standard, this started out as a Roy Lopez Philidor defense. Okay, so I've seen this before, but I don't know it. Philidor defense. It does the same thing that moving the knight would do. It's defending this pawn. Notice it's defending and opening up a light square bishop as well as keeping the pawn chain strong. So the Philidor defense seems to be a standard, easy to learn. Oh, not easy. Excuse me. Easy to understand from a person who's never seen it before. It seems to be obvious why this would be an okay defense, right? We're moving a pawn with purpose. We are doing multiple things with it, so that seems okay. Next most common responses by far are either bishop c4, the Italian type structure, or push up the pawn to d4 and challenge the structure immediately. Okay. Well, I did neither of those. I went with the third most common move. Got his bishop out. He is pinning. These are all good moves. This was the only reason I did this was because I was trying to induce my opponent to make a pawn move that he didn't want to do, or possibly put a knight somewhere where he wasn't planning on doing it. My intention, like I said, was almost always to bring the bishop back. I debated a little bit on this, but to me it was pretty simple that I know this Italian structure get castled. I know this Italian structure. I played it a few times, so I know that it's valid. So I figured I should just go to it. But this is still, we're not quite out of book. That move was very unpopular in the grand scheme of things. My bishop to b5 check. Yeah, so out of all the thousands of games, there was only 880 that were played from this standpoint. So not a fantastic move. Let me put the engine on, see if there's a, yeah, really not a strong counter. All right, so I felt pretty good about this. I got my pawn chain. He's got his pawn chain. He does have a little bit weaker pawn back here. Notice it is protected by some pretty heavy hitters, though, so I'm not really getting to it anytime soon. But it is something to consider about. Immediate attacking. This probably was unnecessary, but my opponent wanted to go for it. The nice thing is, since this pawn has already been pushed once, it would take 2 moves. This one's going to take 2 moves to get to me. So either way, I've got 2 moves. So I have 1, 2. I'm safe. If this pawn were up here on, say, c5, then this becomes a lot more troublesome and possibly trapped. So this is the benefit of this pawn only coming up to the c6 instead of coming all the way to c5. So I do have to, and this is something that I know just from playing the Italian game. I know that I have time to get this bishop hidden if I need to. You guys have seen when I played my Queen's Gambit line, you don't have that time sometimes. But in this case, I knew that I had plenty of time, so I just made an escape square, tucked my bishop in. No harm, no foul. Over the board, this gave me pause. Let me see what the engine says. The engine says it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah, get the bishop up pretty quickly. I just attacked this bishop and gave him the old, you know, go or get off the pot, get off the pot expression. So where does this bishop want to go? Does he want to try to hide it away? Does he want to try to retreat? Now, if this were like a dark square bishop here, this would be a lot more intense, but it's not. So I had the time to do it. The engine says it's not a horrible move. Actually, the engine says it's the #1 move. So hey, not too bad, Joseph. Not too bad at all. My opponent took. I took back with a queen. So I feel pretty good about this. It was around here that, no, castles, and then yeah, this h5 move. The neural network engines really scream that this move is fantastic. So as we're seeing neural networks get more and more powerful and able to calculate more lines and come up with some new interesting novelties, this h5 move, or on even on the white side, pushing an early h4 is we're seeing it more and more in those neural networks. I don't understand it yet. I don't understand the strength of it, but it makes me nervous because obviously it is a strong move. The neural network chess engines are doing a really good job at beating humans and playing at levels that we've never seen before. So if this is a strong move and I don't understand it, that makes me a wee bit nervous. I had 2 candidate moves, bishop e3 or bishop g5. And I took the e3 one. I feel pretty good about that as well. It immediately puts pressure along this diagonal to the queen. This one is an undefended. Notice he has weakened that square, so he cannot attack it with his pawn. He'd have to move his knight first. So I was debating on both of those, and I feel pretty comfortable that that's what the engine says. The engine does say it is okay to go ahead and hide our bishop, but all right, let's keep moving on. Turn the engine off. That was good. It felt good. And then, yeah, here's where I didn't know what to do. This is the point where I was like, we're fully developed. There is really not any weaknesses. I mean, okay. This pawn, this pawn is a weakness. There is nothing defending this pawn whatsoever. It is weak. It is what is holding this kind of chain, this half of the chain together. Notice my opponent's going to push his outside A pawn and strengthen up this structure. So this pawn is weak. So I would like to attack it, but I really don't have a good way to get in there and attack that. If my opponent had, say, captured my my e-pawn, maybe I can capture back with my queen, and that puts a little bit of pressure on that pawn, but I don't know. But at this point in time, I really didn't know what to do. Excuse me. So the question is, what does the engine say? Yeah, the engine really doesn't. So the engine said my previous move was good and my next move was okay, but that was just a tempo waste to do 2 moves in one. All right, the engine says get the rook over, break in the center, or even, yeah, look at this. The engine's saying go ahead and start my my knight trip. So I had some good ideas. I just didn't know which to proceed with. So I made does the engine say it was a bad move? No. I made a waiting move, right? This was 2 tempos where I could have done it all in 1 tempo. Oh well. Yeah, and then there's that pawn chain. Like I said, that C pawn is a weak pawn now. Notice it is a completely backwards Yeah, so what does the engine think about this move? Yeah, oh, I see. It just says go ahead and defend it with the queen. Yeah, look at this. Oh, knight e2. Oh wait, the engine keeps bouncing around. Knight e2, then knight c5. No, knight e2. No, it does not show anymore. Okay, so one of the lines was showing that this knight walks over here. Oh well. Oh my god, I missed checkmate on the board. Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Woo! All right. Raise your hand if you saw that and you didn't tell me. Because I didn't. I did not see that at the time. Ooh, man. If I had lost this game after I had checkmate, I would have been pissed. Boy, the engine says any move I made would have been better than the one that I did. This capture move would have been really strong. Wow. Okay. I cannot believe I had checkmate and won. I completely blew it. There's still checkmate on the board. Holy cow. Look at this line. Wow. Wow. Notice this doesn't work anymore because that square is covered by this knight. Wow. All right. All right, so this queen move that I was debating on, I picked the worst of the options, it seems. Bringing it all the way back or keeping it on the third rank seems to be a better, but oh well. Yeah, because that's right. Because in the game, I said that I wanted that square for this knight. Ha! That's right. That's exactly right. Right. I remember that now. Okay, the engine says go this side first. Oh, because it's putting pressure on this rook. All right, engine, what do you say? Move the queen or capture? About the same. The engine did not like that one. Woo, doggy, because I did leave a knight fork on the table. Damn, son. Woo! Look at that series. Oh my goodness. I did not see that because they both can get to knight fork distance. I was like, hey, I got it covered, man. I am safe. I got that square defended, but he's got two of them. That's good. That is good. That is real good. See, I had the time. I could have said, stopped and said, you know what? Knight fork distance. That is a crucial square. I don't have it protected well enough. Okay. Well, he missed it. Thank goodness. I made the exchange here. Made that. Took that pawn. I'm up, I think, 2 or 3 pawns at this point. 1, 2 pawns at this point. Yeah, the engine. Oh, interesting. Coming this way. Ah, okay, okay, okay. So coming up here, knight to e3 allows the same pressure on this pawn, while at the same time developing this knight. Whereas I went this way, but it doesn't allow the opponent to capture back. Okay. Oh, it says capture with the queen. Oh, either one is fine. I could have captured the queen. I didn't think about that. Capturing the queen would have left these 3 pawns in place, whereas I ended up with doubled pawns. But still, it was felt a good trade for me. Okay. Right, I was defending this pawn, but I probably didn't need to. I probably would have been better off. Because what's he gonna? Whoops, excuse me. What's he gonna do? Take here? And I just take there with the attack on his queen. So yeah, we've traded pawns, but look how active I am now. Yeah, wow, that's a big change. Okay, yeah. I was concerned about dropping a pawn, right? So I did put the I did protect that pawn, but the engine says that was a mistake. Didn't need to at all. Wow, the engine says yeah, because I can't take, right, because if I take, he's unpinned. Yeah, okay. That was dumb on me. That was dumb on me. All right, that's fine. It didn't go that route, and it went this way instead. I feel pretty good about I feel pretty good about this move here. Take with check. Threaten checkmate. Interesting. This was okay, I felt. Yeah, and let's say the best move my opponent can make. I was debating on taking this pawn, but yeah, taking the rook seems way better. Because now look, I have got 2 rooks to a rook and a bishop, plus I'm up 3 pawns. It's pretty good. Okay. Alrighty, well, I missed some things. I need to make sure that I am paying attention to my own long-range pieces, knowing that there's a reason why this is such a strong diagonal, right? And there's a reason why this pawn is a target in the Italian game, right? Because the knight has a way to get here and get here. There's a reason why all that exists. And that reason is when you're playing the Italian game, watch this f7 pawn. This f7 square is major. So we have a long bishop. We have pressure on the f7 square. f7 square for the Italian game is a major point of contention. We had checkmate on the board and we missed it. But that's okay. We still got the win. We fought it out the hard way. We made some mistakes along the way, and we can learn from this. So fun stuff, guys. But again, see how much longer this video... Wow, this video is almost 45 minutes. 40 minutes already. Wow. And this one didn't even get to time. Like, we still had tons of time left. So this is a longer format. Allows you time to think. Allows your brain to slow down, not panic, and think things through. It still requires us to do some analysis on it and to double check. So it is going to make for longer videos. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Guys, I don't know if I can stand listening to myself for 45 minutes. I can't imagine what you guys must be going through, right? Like, that's a long-ass time to listen to these videos, but one way to cut them down is to speed them up. So maybe watch them on 1.25 or 1.5 times speed. That might make things a little easier. You're not having so much dead time. Don't know. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. This was a weird one, fun one. I really enjoyed these kind of games, but I'll talk to you later. Bye.